That is another cool track from the Charles Billingsley album. It's Christmas Time Again, which we a couple of weeks ago on our big, or several weeks ago, about 3-4 weeks ago on the big Christmas show. Charles Billingsley, good crooner, man. Like that guy.
Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. And it's a week before Christmas, so hopefully everybody's getting all their gifts wrapped up and tidied up. Ordering that last-minute Amazon stuff, it's never really feels Christmassy here. It's just dry and just dry.
Considering a good bit of the city burned. Man. You, of course, were here in 1961 for the big Bel Air fire. Were you born yet? You weren't born yet. I was born in 61, so you couldn't have been.
No,
here.
I was not. But I certainly grew up hearing all about it, and that was just the most devastating thing. I mean, that is still the legendary Southern California fire because it, not that it's like a tornado, right? When something destroys a blue collar area or wipes out a poor neighborhood, everyone's kind of sad, but they're like, well, it wasn't worth much anyway. I mean, it's a horrible thing, but the news pays attention to when mansions go up more than it does anything else.
You'll find that they mention it. They always say, because there's been more than the Skirball fire, which is the one that's been near the Getty, the Getty, and all of that, and some of the mansions. I think Rupert Murdoch had a vineyard or something like that burned as a part of this recent fire.
I know a lot of people who I know who really don't like Murdoch were sort of like, yeah. I'm like, let me tell you something. Murdoch probably has never even seen that house.
And he's probably going to make more money from the insurance.
He probably doesn't even know that he owns that house.
So all of that, but they always mention the value of the property in the reporting on television. This is plainly a $2-3 million. They say it like that, as opposed to when they were up in Selmar, where there was another big fire. Ordinary people, ordinary homes, still very very lovely homes.
It is much more. This always bothers me because it is much more tragic. Again, a mansion that Rupert Murdoch probably doesn't know that he even owns, which is fully insured. That is not as tragic as when a Guatemalan mudslide wipes out a hut and everything in it, and that poor family loses absolutely everything that they own, and that's everything.
And has no resources, and no insurance, and no resources to rebuild. Rupert's vineyard will be fine.
I wish the news would have more perspective on that, but in any case, so getting into the home stretch now, starting to get a few final movies that were not part of our awards mix. Last Jedi and the Great Entertainer with Hugh Jackman, and obviously the Ridley Scott film. These are all now falling into place. So
all the money in the world.
We're gonna
with Christopher Plummer, of course.
I say that I feel almost like the Spacey thing was a blessing in disguise. I really do. Like they dodged a bullet. That Christopher Plummer, and I still need to find out if they rewrote scenes, if they wrote new scenes to take advantage of the fact that they because they didn't just reshoot Kevin Spacey stuff. I think they wrote new scenes.
I think they reconceived it to make sense for the actor.
I really do, because you get to that place. You get to that in the editing sometimes where you think, gosh, if we had it do over, I sure would love to have this shot or this scene. It would be great if we had a scene here that did this. It's too bad it wasn't in the script, because now we're cutting. And it really would work.
Yeah, and once you open the can, you might as well diddle around with all the parts.
If you have a point if you can go back and reshoot stuff, I guarantee you the editors are like, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we? Yeah, for sure.
I can't believe they cast Kevin Spacey and put all that rubber crap on his face in the first place and thought that was a good idea. I mean, I get it. He's in that series. And
apparently, Christopher Plummer, they wanted him originally, but it was Kevin Spacey was justified. I mean, look, you live by the sword, die by the sword, right? It was
justified the budget is what you're going to
Kevin Spacey means more. Well, he means more until underage men start saying, he threw me on the bed.
You notice Bryan Singer went missing. So to speak, went missing.
Yeah, we're going to learn a lot more about what's going on there.
There's stuff. But he just thought he went off. Did they fire him or did he quit? They fired him. But he went AWOL first.
He was he was missing for, he says he wanted to take care of a sick parent, and Fox wouldn't give him time off after Thanksgiving. He didn't come back to the set. The DP had to direct the movie for 2 days. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
DP is directing the movie. I mean, not that he's, that's a horrible thing. A DP knows what to do with a camera, but come on.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a mess. So.
Because we're paying Bryan Singer money.
Yeah,
not to have the DP direct, and I don't know what I didn't really know what that was all about. But he went away for a while, and now he's gone away. So anyway. We'll see. Yeah. And
all right.
Hollywood always interesting.
So I'm gonna burn through a bunch of anime. We got just gigantic piles of anime. So before anime fans love their anime, and Christmas is coming up. So before we let Christmas get away, let me just kick through a whole bunch of anime here that is new and available, and will make the anime fan in your family, probably a teenage boy, but I know there are a lot of teenage girls that love anime. Yeah. A lot of grown men that love anime. Yeah. So here's what's out there real quickly. We got a whole bunch of stuff. We got a couple here from Made in Japan. Section 23 releases the Made in Japan label, and there are a couple from the Made in Japan library. Two Heart 2, 13 episodes from that series, which is, more schoolgirl stuff with different colored hair. It's kind of, it's fine. It's schoolgirls with science fiction and alien attributes and things like that. And then the really beautifully animated The Good Witch of the West, which is quite lovely. Something I was not terribly familiar with, but this is also 13 episodes on 2 discs, also on Blu-ray. Very, very nicely. That's really beautiful artwork. A whole bunch of stuff from the Sentai library as well, also from Section 23. Sentai is, apart from Funimation, far and away the most dominant library in anime. Always something interesting going on there. We've got the Initial D stuff, which is sort of, Fast and the Furious anime version. Initial D Legend 1 Awakening. Which is DVD and Blu-ray combo set. Very teen, very hipster, very cool, very automotive. We also have I'm Sakamoto. Haven't you heard? The complete collection, 13 episodes on 2 discs. This is more Japanese school politics, but with one guy in particular who's kind of a mysterious figure. And there's some really kind of challenging animation here. They take some risks that you don't normally see in anime, so that's interesting. Golden Time, 24 episodes on 3 discs, also on Blu-ray, complete collection, Golden Time. This is, again, more school stuff. The Japanese in the school, I don't get it, but they somehow find ways of making the challenge of being in school, whether it's college or high school, some kind of a genre thing. It's always, it gets interesting. Let's see what else we got here real quickly. Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions. Complete seasons 1 and 2. More school stuff. The very, very elegantly animated Chaika. This is 22 episodes plus the OVA stuff. Complete series, season 1 and season 2 together. This is really cool, kind of fantasy sci-fi stuff. Galactic Empire politics. A lot of very, very clever writing here. That's something that for a serious anime fan will love. Chaika, the Coffin Princess, season 1 and 2. When They Cry, also seasons 1 through 3 on Blu-ray, a 9-disc set, 55 episodes. This is fantastic. A lot of people I know who are really, really into anime. This is one of their favorite shows. It's kind of like a horror fantasy anime. Again, really interesting animation, very clever writing, a little bit gruesome. It's not for kids. This is very, very adult. It's got a lot of really kind of gory, creepy stuff going on, but it's not, Legend of the Overfiend stuff. It doesn't get into the adults only realm. So you might want to check this out. Just feel out your anime fans, see what kind of stuff they love. Skewing much more to the younger set is the Squid Girl complete collection, seasons 1 and 2, plus OVAs. Not really my speed. Feels very Pokemon, but it's got an environmental message, which I guess is meaningful to some people. A little bit more for older kids, kind of a teen thing, is Haikyuu, Hikyu, first season. 2 exclamation points at the end of that. 25 episodes on 3 discs. It's, more school stuff, high school volleyball and high school politics and athletics. It's, I guess, Japanese kids must have issues in school. I don't know. And then the last 2 from Sente is Hackman, 8 Dogs of the East. Really well animated, but this gets into that area where it's a little bit impenetrable in terms of the all of the village politics and the fantasy and the demons and the powers and all the fantasy aspects to it. Little bit disorienting. The far-fetched stuff, the fantasy stuff, the demons, the creatures, all of that is really quite amazing to look at. It really is very, very impressive if you don't mind being utterly confused as to what the rules of that universe are. And then lastly, maybe the most interesting bit of animation in all of this is Clannad, part of the Clannad and Clannad After Story epic. You get both of them here, 24 episodes of Clannad on 3 discs and Clannad After Story, 25 episodes on 3 discs. If you're familiar with Air and Kanan, this is from the same animation teams. I'm not necessarily familiar with Air and Kanan, but this again takes place in the Japanese school environment, but with a bit of a more, it's a little bit more of a thriller. It feels almost kind of semi-Hitchcockian, and then there's like a fantasy twist to it. It's really interesting stuff. From Nozomi is Revolutionary Girl Utena, the Apocalypse Saga. If you're into the Revolutionary Girl, these things are, a world unto themselves, just like all these other epics. So if you don't know what that's all about, it's too late to start. And then Digimon Adventure Try. We've got a couple new releases here from the people at Shout Factory. Confession and Determination. Both of them come in Blu-ray, DVD, digital download combo sets. The digital download thing, especially as pertains to anyone who is outside of Movies Anywhere now, is a little bit up in the air. So I've been trying for weeks, by the way, Tim. I have been trying for weeks to get questions answered about the technical roadmap of Movies Anywhere. I haven't gotten any answers yet. So everybody wants to know, how many other companies are going to join Movies Anywhere? If so, when? If not, what's their format going to be? Anybody who needs to know, I don't have answers to that yet, but I'm working on it. So those are 2 new Digimon Adventure Try sets. Confession and Determination. I have no idea if your digital download is going to, be proprietary or not. And then, I'll do the rest of these later in the show, but let me just also mention Mobile Suit Gundam W. Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, Endless Waltz. This is from the Sunrise collection, which is with the people at Right Stuff. Either you're into Gundam or you're not. The suit is awesome. The storylines are all part of a huge cosmic epic. If you're not caught up, there's no point in trying. Just watch one and try to keep up. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back to the very first Gundam series and watch the first episode, and you're going to watch then like 30 Gundam series, and next thing you know, 5 years will go by, and it's all-encompassing.
And you won't understand them any more than you do.
None of it at all. Gundam is just a universe unto itself. It's I don't even know how the writers of Gundam keep up with it themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's like The Simpsons, right? You have like 20 years worth of Gundam world. It's like Star Trek.
Yeah. It's all referential and
it's all. Yeah. I mean, you have to get a degree in it. It's crazy. But anyway, this is pretty terrific. Really cool. Great action, but making sense of it is another question. That is Mobile Suit Gundam Wing Endless Waltz.
Wow. You want to knock off a few new movies? What do you think?
Let's do a few new movies, and then I'll save the Funimation stuff for later because it's that's a special batch of stuff all by itself. So we'll do the because one of them here is actually live action. So I'll address that in a separate batch. But let's do some new movies.
So A Trip to Spain. Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon again in their continuing series of
Third
Michael
one.
Winterbottom. Yeah, of what I understand, it's going to be 6. We went to England. We went to Italy.
Oh, there are going to be 3 more?
I think there will be 3 more.
That's fantastic.
A 6-part series there. Look, I certainly enjoyed the first 2 deeply. There's a diminishing return, because basically we're with these guys. They're traveling all over these, picturesque places.
There are only so many people they can do impressions of.
And they've been killing Michael Caine over and Sean Connery over a couple of them. Anyway, they really are funny, but how can they get away with 3 more? I don't know. It'll depend on the food, I suppose. Ultimately, it'll depend on the food. So that's what that one is. Viceroy's House. I appreciated this film. There were a couple of these. Victoria and Abul was one, all of which were speaking to one point or another in the idea of the British Raj and what was going on and all that kind of stuff. This one with Gillian Anderson doing a perfectly wonderful sort of British accent. I love her because she's out there putting the reverse on that thing that's been going on for a long time, where all the Brits have been coming here and doing American accents. And no, Gillian's like, no, I can do that, and look, she does.
The guy who stars in Get Out is British.
Yeah, it's just a crazy thing to. So this was interesting. Basically, it's about that period at the end of the British Raj when everything was switching back and forth. There's a lot of political intrigue that goes on in this movie. I count myself somewhat knowledgeable about this period that I did not know. That all kinds of deals had been cut and made that had to do with Bangladesh and Pakistan and where the dividing line would be and all kinds of things that were going on. All kinds of deals were made behind the back of the viceroy.
Yeah.
So while he was negotiating and making promises, other promises had already been made.
So interesting.
That would lead him to, look like. Anyway, we know what happened to him. Michael Gambon in the movie, based on a true story. I like it. Lots of special features, including deleted scenes and this, that, and the other thing.
And, director Gurinder Chadha, I just absolutely adore. I have met Gurinder. Gurinder, her big breakthrough was Bend It Like Beckham.
Yeah.
And which was produced by Deepak Nair, who's a good friend of ours, and we were at his house for his Diwali party.
Oh.
But my wife used to work for Deepak as well, which all ties into the David Lynch thing. But we met Gurinder at the first cast and crew screening of Bend It Like Beckham, and she's just the most wonderful, warmest human being. She and her husband do all these films together, and I think that really did not get enough credit this year. That is a step up for her.
Yeah.
That's really because she then went and did Bride and Prejudice, the Bollywood musical version of it, and she's so talented. So I hope that gets a little after the fact love on DVD.
I rather enjoyed it myself. Reese Witherspoon in Home Again.
God help us all.
Yeah, a film from Haley Meyer Shire. Haley Meyer Shire, of course, being the child of Charles Shire and Nancy Meyer.
Look, Haley. I want to speak very directly to her. You were no doubt talented. You grew up with 2 very talented parents, but your Hollywood biography with Reese Witherspoon effectively playing you with daddy issues, the daughter of a filmmaker and all of this stuff. There is nothing in this movie that is accessible for an average person.
Oh, even the commentary track, which
just
features
nothing.
her and her mom.
Yeah.
You and I make a movie. You know who's not going to be on the commentary track with me? My mom, because she doesn't know jack about movies. I mean, she does, but she's not going to be on the commentary track.
Look,
but that's the thing. Yeah.
The thing that drove me crazy with that movie, as well intentioned as it is, and I understand there are a lot of issues there, and we're dealing with a lot of issues and so forth and so on. But here's the problem. Part of the story is that there are these film students that have this. They're just trying to break through with their movie and take meetings, and for reasons that make no sense at all, they wind up living at Reese Witherspoon's house. And there's a thing in the movie. There's a moment where the director guy there's these three guys, and they all, and then Reese Witherspoon has her ex-husband played by Michael Sheen, and then there's like an affair with the young guy and Michael Sheen and the rivalry, and it all gets very messy. But of the young filmmaker guys, there's a moment where the director guy and his screenwriter buddy get into a fight of friendship and loyalty because the screenwriter guy took a job on a script and didn't tell him about it. Now, you know what?
Yeah,
Tim, if you took a job tomorrow on doing a screenplay rewrite, I would be like, right on.
Way to go,
man.
baby.
Right, way to go.
That's because everyone knows. Everyone
Are you
who's
kidding
ever
me?
If somebody offers you a job in Hollywood, writing the direct, you take the job.
Who berates their buddy for taking a screenwriting job? Do you know how hard that is? How rare that is? See, that's where this film feels completely disconnected from reality to me. Is that these are Hollywood problems, and Hallie has got to. She's got to find a real world. There's some talent there. There's no doubt. You can't not be talented and have those two parents. But
it's a matter of subject.
Go into the real world. Go into the real world. Spend a year in the Peace Corps or something.
And whatever you do, this is not directed at her. Just generally speaking, young filmmaker. Generally speaking, probably not a good idea to make your first film about yourself. About you,
unless you're Francois Truffaut.
yeah, 400 blows. Which is really a film about all of those little boys like that.
Yes, it is.
Who live like that. He was one of them. He happened to be one of them.
Yeah.
The film is like this is us. We're talking about 400 blows. So anyway, that's what that was. Home Again. Love Reese though. Reese is having a lovely little career, a little life, because she's got that television show, Pretty Little Liars. This movie. So kind of neat to see that Reese is still hanging in there after all of this time. Also, Crown Heights here, Matt Ruskin film, set in 1990. Based on an actual story. A teenager is gunned down in Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Crown Heights is a good movie.
It's a good movie. It's a solid procedural with some pretty neat special features on it too, including a commentary by the director. And it really is. It really is just a tight movie that traces this particular event and the sort of pressures of the police. It's funny that these movies speak to events that are happening in society right now that have to do with justice and fairness between police and communities of color and how those things sort of work out. There was a trial that just came to a few weeks ago where a decision was made. And I don't know if you were following that, but that so deeply moved me. A police officer shot an unarmed black man. The details are irrelevant. They're all the same. He was sentenced to 20 years. Yet, upon being sentenced to 20 years, he told the parents of that man that he was sorry. He apologized by name to the parents, to the cousins, to every person who came to that trial to hear the sentencing. He apologized by name to every one of those people. You know what? I have the deepest respect for that police officer, that former police officer, I guess, what it is. Because we don't always do that. You know what? He took the hit. I made a mistake. And I need to take the hit, and I need to say I'm sorry. And what did those parents and all the family do? They forgave him.
Yeah,
dude, I got to tell you, that's an extremely powerful thing. Extremely powerful thing. And this movie is loosely based on a true story, and it's sort of shaped like that in a particular kind of way.
Got a couple here, different movies, but I'm gonna hit them both in the same breath. John Corbett, interesting guy, just keeps showing up. He's been all over movies and television for a lot of years now, and
Sex in the City for years.
Sex in the City, and Big Fat Greek Wedding, and John Corbett he's sort of an everyman that people really relate to. Really good casting in All Saints, which is a true story of a guy who was a salesman, became a pastor, and lost his church, and then became kind of a patron for this group of Southeast Asian refugees. It's a true story. I wouldn't call this a faith-based film, even though it was made by a group that is primarily known for that. But comes with some cool special features, and all about the making of the film and behind-the-scenes, deleted scene stuff. And but you know what? It is a very touching story, and John Corbett is the right guy for this. He really is.
And it does not feel like a faith-based
no, it
film,
doesn't.
Which is a really interesting thing, because it in fact actually is.
But
it doesn't feel like it at all. And that's a marker of something right there, that these stories can be told in such a way that they are engaging. And there are a lot of them in Boys Town.
Yeah.
Boys Town.
Sure.
Boys Town would be a faith-based film today.
It would, actually.
But,
you're right.
but it's not really, is it? Because it's this really, really good movie, executed and performed. And that movie is, too, that John Corbett film. I liked it quite a lot, All Saints.
And then Birth of the Dragon, Blu-ray, DVD, and digital copy set. I wanted to like this so much more.
Yeah.
Look, I really did. This is a true story of, well, it's based on a true event. So here's the thing. Before Bruce Lee really became Bruce Lee, he was in San Francisco. He was teaching Kung Fu, and he was challenged by Wong Jack Man, who was a very traditional Kung Fu master from Hong Kong, who came, and this was going to be sort of the battle of the generations, the traditionalist versus the new guy who dares to teach Kung Fu to white people and black people, and kind of mix it up and be a little bit cockier, and that actually happened. There was a fight between Bruce Lee and Wong Jack Man. It really happened.
Yes.
And what happened there is the subject of some debate, but there are people who were there, including Bruce Lee's wife, Linda, who was pregnant with Brandon at the time, while her husband is going toe-to-toe in this just brutal fight in a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah.
That is not part of this story.
Linda is not in this movie.
Linda's not even in this movie. She's mentioned once, just where he says, I think they don't like me because my wife is white, and my grandmother was white, and that's kind of it. And then there's this whole fake story with this white guy and this young Asian girl, and this interracial romance, and she's caught up in a brothel, and it wasn't that's a non-story. That shouldn't even be part of this. So they really kind of missed the boat on this. George Nolfi, who directed it, he's got a pedigree. He's not a bad director. The film's well put together, but they just really missed the boat on the focus. So anyway, Birth of the Dragon. Of all the movies that are ostensibly about Bruce Lee, I don't know that I would put this one near the top.
And I got American Assassin over here, which look, Michael Keaton is the thing that makes this movie. Walking around this movie. So the movie's about a young guy. He loses his the love of his life, his girlfriend, in one of these horrible sort of attacks, and it drives him to want to become involved in the sort of mercenary sort of ex-U.S. Navy SEAL sort of thing, so he can go out and protect people.
A little bit strange that Michael Keaton is going to do something like this after having been in 2 consecutive Best Picture winners, right? Birdman and Spotlight. And getting an Oscar nomination there,
then he goes. Well, not just this. He's that Spider. He's one of the better things in that Spider-Man movie.
Sure, for sure.
So I gotta figure what's Michael Keaton doing.
I don't know.
Anyway, Spider-Man movie. I know what he's doing in Spider-Man. He's getting paid.
No, and I guess he's getting paid here too.
Yeah, I guess he's getting paid here too. But this, I don't know. People appreciated this movie. Wasn't that fantastic to me? But it was okay. Sanaa Lathan and a few other people in it. Yeah. All kinds of crap on this DVD. So if you're a fan, check it out. This is a part of a book series too, though. So I imagine there'll probably be a few more of those.
Yep. And let's see, we got TV. Why don't we? Let me go through the criterions.
Okay, knock those off.
Let's hit the criterions real quickly. We have got Monterey Pop, the complete Monterey Pop Festival on Blu-ray, finally from Criterion. Dia Pennebaker's 3 films, produced by Lou Adler, who lives about 5 minutes away from me. You always see Lou Adler. By the way, people who watch Laker games on television, anytime you see Jack Nicholson sitting right there on the floor watching the Lakers, sitting next to him is a kind of old hippie-looking guy with long gray hair and a beard. That's Lou.
Yeah.
That's Lou Adler, famous legendary music producer, produced Monterey Pop. They screen this, every so often, and Lou always shows up to do Q&As. He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, Lou Adler and Dia Pennebaker. pretty great. Tons of great performances here. Everybody knows these. Simon and Garfunkel, Mamas and the Papas, Jimi Hendrix, The Who, Ravi Shankar. I was just talking about him yesterday with my wife, who was unaware that Nora Jones is Shankar's daughter. No, you know what? It's a certain generation, man.
I guess, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
she's just young enough
to not make that connection.
Like, I'm a child of the '60s, she's a child of the '70s, right? That makes the difference.
All the difference in the world.
Makes all the difference. So anyway, Complete Monterey Pop on Blu-ray. It's fantastic, absolutely gorgeous. And then here's an interesting one: Election, the Alexander Payne film.
Yeah, Alexander has a new film in theaters. I guess it's been out for a few weeks now. Downsizing.
Yeah, which did not get a lot of love from the group. And you know what? Alexander Payne has won awards from the LA Film Critics for virtually every movie he's ever made.
Going all the way back to that one.
Going back to this one. And he won nothing for Downsizing. The group did not really love the movie, which I thought was interesting. But he and Jim Taylor wrote this together, as they have almost all of his films. And you know what? Look, Matthew Broderick, Reese Witherspoon. We just talked about Reese. This is Reese Witherspoon is a high school student, running for student body president. And honestly, as a satire of high school, this may be the best movie ever made.
As an old high school history and civics teacher, I can identify with Matthew. I don't think I would have gone to the extent that he did to undo that kid.
It's pretty great.
But I had a couple of students who I wanted to undo more or less just like that.
It's pretty great. Yeah. It's a pretty great movie. It's a lot of fun. I wish Alexander would make movies like this again. He. As I've mentioned, I think before, Alexander was a graduate student when I was an undergraduate student, and saw him in the halls all the time.
Yeah.
And then lastly is Barbet Schroeder's amazing, chilling documentary, General Idi Amin Dada, self-portrait. Yes, what Forrest Whitaker does in his Oscar-winning performance as Idi Amin Dada is in Last King of Scotland is tremendous. It's absolutely tremendous, but there is just nothing to compare to the real Idi Amin Dada, who is one of the most chilling sociopathic figures of the 20th century. And this is in 1974. Barbet Schroeder, he gets him on film, man, in just the most horrific way, and it's just give him enough rope and let him hang himself.
I eat people. Idi Amin Dada at that period, along with later on, I guess the Duvaliers, Papa Doc, anyway. And unfortunately, the recently deposed Robert Mugabe, who was actually something of a freedom fighter when he first got started.
He lost his mind.
But Idi Amin was at the forefront of that group of African leaders who forced out colonial occupying forces. Indeed, did do that.
And then it went to their heads.
Just went south. Yeah, it just went to their heads. All went bad.
Let me make a quick mention too, because this is worth putting a couple of shouts out. Lewis Black, Black to the Future. Lewis Black is still one of the funniest guys out there, one of the edgiest comics, and he's never pleasured himself in front of anyone. No. So,
and you know why? Because all his anger is on the outside.
Yes,
that's why.
So anyway, that's out there in an eco pack, and it just is really just great. It's all election related stuff, and it's all current events, and there is just no end of material for him. He really is just one of the funniest guys out there. I love it when he loses his mind and he just gets angry and stabs the air. Lewis Black is one of the best. He's a national treasure. Also, if you're a baseball fan, Mark used to do all this stuff, and
Mark. That's a baseball boy.
Mark is having a good time in Paris. We heard from him; he's having a grand old time. We've got the World Series Champions 2017 regular series World Series film, which is a single Blu-ray of the Houston Astros championship over our local LA Dodgers, which is still a little bit painful. But and then we also have the collector's edition, which is every single game in its entirety, all 7 of them. And I mean, this was an epic World Series. So you can either get the one Blu-ray, which gives you the highlights, or you get the Big Mama, which is everything, and that includes Dodgers radio, Spanish language radio broadcast option. It's just everything. Nothing. There's no stone unturned with this.
It's freakish, just what it is. I'm sorry,
sure is.
You baseball people. It's freakish. You watched the game, you saw it. That's enough. But now you do your thing. Zoo, James Patterson's series, which lasted through these 3 seasons, which sort of surprised me. I started out watching Zoo when it first premiered 3 seasons ago. Kind of lost the thread on it fairly quickly. It's about the animals going. It's about the animals going completely bananas and wild. This one is set in 2027. That's when this one sort of picks up and presses on into the storyline there, which is, fine. If you're into it, I suppose you're into it. Not so much me. Special features on this include a season 3 sneak peek and some deleted scenes, which actually are kind of interesting. And there's also this special effects reel, a gag reel, but also a special effects reel, which I found sort of interesting. Zoo is a really big special effects show. With all the animals and all that kind of stuff going on. So if you're into that kind of stuff, that's really what this is for. Check it out for that.
A lot of good Revolutionary War action continues in Poldark, the 3rd season. Aidan Turner. How long before Aidan Turner becomes a big movie star?
Not very long at all.
He's going to make that leap really soon.
Look, I used to watch that series when it was on. Was it the 70s or the 80s when the original Poldark was on PBS? It might have been the 70s.
Might have been. Yeah.
Might have been that long ago. And some of those actors, by the way, show up from the guy that played Poldark plays a judge in this series, which is really great to me. And I love that. And I didn't think I would like this because I love that so much. Those shows, and those still hold up, by the way.
They do.
Those PBS shows still hold up completely. This, though, is so beautiful. So beautifully really shot. So beautifully shot. Incredibly romantic. I love it a lot.
Yeah, so we are now in 1794 and working our way through the Revolutionary War era. And I'll tell you, Aidan Turner, man, he's just he's going to be a huge movie star when he finally makes the jump. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see him in the mix to be the next James Bond.
Yeah, he is young enough.
He is young enough.
He's young enough, yeah. And frankly, unless he's going to do something like that, go Bond, there's no reason to make the jump.
No.
You know what I mean? It's not like it used to be back in the day where, the Tom Selleck. You and I remember when it was a big deal whether Tom was going to, because he was almost in Raiders Lost Ark, and then there was, obviously Magnum PI for years, and we didn't know. And people forget Tom Selleck was a movie star for about 5 years. Mr. Baseball.
Mr. Baseball, 3 Men and a Baby.
Quigley Down Under. He had a little run as a movie star there.
Yeah.
Now, what is Tom Selleck again?
TV
star. Making more money than he ever made in any one of those movies. So I'm not sure people care that much anymore like they used to. The Defiant ones on Blu-ray. This is an absolutely fascinating documentary series following the partnership, the unlikely, I suppose. I don't know why I say unlikely partnership between Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre. I don't really know. I think I only said that because I've heard other people say it. I don't know what's unlikely about their partnership at all. When you watch this series, what you can see is how much alike they are, the way they think the same.
Yes.
Set the music aside. In terms of business and what it takes to build an empire, these guys are the same. It's interesting because they're from completely different worlds. Obviously, the world of South Central Los Angeles, Dr. Dre, born in 1965, Jimmy Iovine, almost 20 years older, from a completely different sector of the world, yet they are so much the same. And that was the most interesting thing to me about this series, juxtaposing these two men who seem like they ought to be really, really different, but aren't, and got each other completely. The moment of tension when Dre sort of lets it slip that they're going to do that IP for Beats, $1 billion IP, and that actually plays just pretty riveting in this movie. By the way, Beats, those headphones suck. They're terrible.
Oh, they're terrible.
They're
Everyone
awful.
knows it. I know.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's a brand.
Yeah.
Brenda Blethyn has had a wonderful, going from Oscar nominee to basically a British television variation on an Agatha Christie kind of a mystery sleuth. This is based on the Anne Cleeves character. It's not Agatha Christie. Anne Cleeves is kind of like a modern day Agatha Christie as an author. But Vera has been a great thing for her. This is set 7. 4 new mysteries just from last year and this year. and you know, she's a great sleuth, and these are cool mysteries. You know, British television mysteries tend to be either of the 1 hour variety or the we're only going to do 4 of these feature length every year variety. That's what these are. They 4 of them over the course of about a year and a half, 2 years. And they're all feature length, and they're really intense, and they're serious movies.
They're deeply dramatic. They don't always just lean into the sort of gore and,
right.
and I mean and stuff like that. They're very dramatic.
Very dramatic.
So, you know, Secrets and Lies,
but nicely designed procedurally. Yeah.
Most people probably came in America to Brenda Secrets and Lies.
Yes.
Which is middle '90s, I think.
Yeah.
But if you're an old British television, you can go all the way back to Yes, Prime Minister.
Yeah,
you can find Brenda in the early '80s.
Yep.
In all kinds of stuff that you were watching. You just didn't happen to know you were watching Brenda Blethane. Game of Thrones, the complete 7th season. I mean, what is there to say about it?
If you've been watching it, you know what to expect. If you haven't, you know, you better get with it. Get started. Go back to the first.
This is all about the special features. All about this. So this is full of that. That's what you're going to get.
At this point, I'm really recommending that people just wait until the show has run its course
and then do the whole damn thing.
Just do the whole thing, because it's all going to show on Netflix first, and then just. This is what you do. Wait for it to finish its run, because it's too late now to get started. I mean, you know, you can start with first, but wait till it finishes its run, then binge the whole thing on Netflix, because it'll all be on Netflix.
Because you'll know whether or not you are into it and you like it before the end of the first season. And this is either your world or not your world.
And if you love what you see on Netflix and you feel like you want to own it, like just having it on tap on Netflix is not enough. You actually want the discs with the 9 million hours and years of extras and all that stuff, then you can go splurge on it.
Yeah, and by then they'll probably have it all in a gigantic super set that costs about $2,500 or something like that. Thank you for letting me do this one, Wade. One day at a time, the complete series. Pat Harrington.
Was he the best?
Man, Schneider.
You
know, it's just, you know, that would all be considered sexual harassment today, by the way. I just want to point everything that he does in that show would be considered he'd be sexually harassing.
Now, here's something interesting. The 70s sitcoms in the 70s were very interesting, because they centered very often, not exclusively around, but the peripheral characters, sometimes the central characters, were really very urban blue-collar people.
Yes.
And we don't get that anymore.
Archie Bunker.
George
Jefferson even.
Archie Bunker came home every day with his lunch box from, you know, working whatever. I don't even remember what Archie did. What did he work?
He drove a taxi at night.
That's what it was. He drove a taxi at night.
That was his second job.
But the day job was whatever.
I don't even know. You know, it was just exactly.
You had Schneider. He's just walking around with a tool belt all day long, fixing stuff around the property.
All the cast of Taxi.
The whole cast of Taxi. You had Mel's Diner. Mel is a short order cook.
Kiss my grits.
I mean,
regular. You're absolutely right.
Even George Jefferson.
Was he worked his way up. He was a working class man, and he still worked at those dry cleaners every day.
These were all working class people, and you know, good times.
Yeah.
John, right? It's just these were all working class people, and comedies don't focus on working class people anymore. That's interesting to me.
It really is. It's a thing. It was true of film in the 70s too. A lot of film. You know, blue collar films about all those Robert Altman films about regular people doing regular stuff. This is one of the early moments. Julia, you can probably go all the way back to Julia. Diana Carroll, single mom.
Yeah,
Julia was a single mom. Peggy on Mannix.
There are a lot of single parent shows from the 60s into especially in the 70s. You know, Courtship of Eddie's Father and Family Affair and you know, Ghost and Mrs. Muir and even Andy Griffith's show. All this stuff.
To a certain extent, even the Brady Bunch. You had these single men who did these sort of blended families. It was much more sophisticated in certain ways.
Yeah.
The 80s gave way to another thing. This show sort of bleeds over into the 80s, of course. But Ann Romano and you know, Valerie Bertinelli, who I had a crush on like you would not believe.
Everyone did.
They went on to become. So anyway, this is a fantastic set.
Complete series, man.
4 and 5 and 6 discs, depending on exactly what season you're looking at, of the entire 9-season run of One Day at a Time. Bonnie Franklin, Mackenzie Phillips, Valerie Bertinelli. and the wonderful Pat Harrington, who I think I know Bonnie's gone.
Yeah.
And I think we lost Pat 2 or 3 years ago.
I think we did.
So there you go with that. All right. Anyway, fantastic. A few special features on this, including a 20-page episode guide, complete series, one day at a time.
Some classic movies to go through. Let me just kick out a few here real quickly. Deathdream from Blue Underground on a Blu-ray DVD combo set. Deathdream, kind of a, it's it has a little bit of a cult following. There's some respectable extras on here. Now, this was directed by Bob Clark, who most people today know as the guy who did A Christmas Story.
Yes.
Sweet, wholesome, wonderful. People forget he also did Black Christmas, the slasher Christmas movie.
Of that, yeah.
And my generation knows him as the guy who inflicted Porky's on the world.
Yes.
So Bob Clark also directed I'll Remember April, wonderful drama written by our friend Mark Sanderson, who was a high school and film school buddy of mine, with Pat Morita. Beautiful, beautiful story. So Bob Clark was sort of all over the place, and but he did love his genre. Slasher movies, his genre horror movies, and this happens to be one of them. Great gore effects by the amazing Tom Savini. Tons of extras here, audio commentaries and interviews and much more. So Deathdream from Blue Underground, really really great horror classic from the early 70s, 1974. If you are a Bob Clark fan in particular, you will want to check it out. Otherwise, not a lot to recommend it. And then Heat and Dust from Cohen. Tim and I have done audio commentaries for Cohen, and this is a classic Merchant Ivory film. They are doing a lot of Merchant Ivory stuff. Cohen has acquired a substantial number of the Merchant Ivory films from their collection and are redoing them, remastering them beautifully. This won an Adapted Screenplay Award from BAFTA, and it is one of the more personal of the Merchant Ivory films, with a great screenplay by Ruth Parjabvala, and it's almost an existential fusion of what made the Merchant Ivory team work. What's interesting to me is how British those films were, despite the fact that none of the three of them were really British.
Yeah.
James Ivory American, Ismail Merchant is Indian, and Ruth Parjabvala was German.
Yeah.
So but although there's an Indian connection, Ruth had married an Indian man, and of course Ismail is Indian. So this has an interesting dual cultural aspect to it, which is really, really fascinating, and the way that the two stories are interconnected is just beautiful. Two different generations, two different stories, beautifully fused in this fascinating movie. Heat and Dust really deserves a rediscovery. Julie Christie is absolutely wonderful. Greta Scacchi, just as wonderful. Two of the great actresses of two different generations, and taken from a 4K restoration. It is gorgeously well photographed. So highly recommended, with a lot of great special features on here as well. Definitely worth checking out. James Ivory even enters a new conversation. And by the way, James Ivory also enjoying a little bit of residual success, because he wrote Call Me By Your Name, which was our best picture this year. He didn't direct it, but he wrote it. And
the film, which is set, what is it called? Call Me By Your Name. Set in the early 80s.
Set in the early 80s. Yeah, about 81, 82.
Yeah, and I think that owes to him, because he has this extremely sort of he's not trying to write anything modern. He doesn't have to write cell phone conversations. And, it lives in that spot where he lives. I saw The Remains of the Day. It was on broadcast television just the other day. Oh my goodness,
love that movie.
That movie just absolutely breathtaking. Shall I poke at a couple of these?
Yeah, go for it.
42. Which was made in 1971, and it's just a lovely film, and just always was. Jennifer O'Neill and Gary Grounds and Jerry Hauser in this beautiful movie written by Herman Rauscher. This romance probably stuck with me. First of all, when I first saw this movie, which would have been close to 1971, unfortunately, when I was 10 or 11 or 12 or 14 or whatever, in the middle 70s when I first saw it, I thought that it was a movie that was set in 1942.
Right.
So whatever, my teenage mind. And to this day, this movie, though I know it was a movie that was set in 1942, but I thought it was a movie made in 1942. Is what I was trying to say. Not just set there. And it took me a long time to sort of unravel. That's how well made this movie and how beautifully set this movie is. It lives in my head in 1942, despite the fact that it's a totally modern movie. Anyway, a lovely film. Not a lot of special stuff on here. Robert Mulligan, man, you know, what do you do?
Warner Archive.
Yeah, Warner Archive film. I'm going to pop over to The Scarecrow.
Oh, I love this movie.
Wonderful Gene Hackman, Al Pacino film, just about a con man.
Jerry Shatberg.
Yeah.
You know, and people don't know Shatberg's name today. They don't realize Jerry Shatberg was a bit of an indie auteur, primarily in the 70s. But this movie is. It's fascinating what an influence this movie had on a whole generation of filmmakers. I mean, I'm thrilled that they put it out on Blu-ray because it deserves to be discovered. I have talked to so many directors, like major blockbuster directors, especially from the 80s and 90s, who were really influenced by this.
Well, Jerry was one of the early guys along with Haskell Wexler as a cinematographer, creating that cinema that this is the way it's Panic in Needle Park. Yeah, that's Jerry
exactly,
and you feel like you're watching a doc. Yeah. When you watch a Schatzberger film, these people who were, and again, a certain segment of society being covered in cinema that we don't.
These are marginal figures.
Just
like in Midnight Cowboy, exactly.
All that kind of stuff. Yeah. The movies are not about these guys anymore.
Pacino is so great in that. Yeah. There's a scene where he runs around a market. It's one of the funniest things you will ever see in a film, and it's just him running around. Yeah, it's hysterical.
Fantastic stuff.
Three other archive films I'll make mention of real quickly. Night School. Night School has a following only because it's just a genre thing. It's not Rachel Ward, very young Rachel Ward, but it's a genre thing. There's nothing particularly to recommend it other than the people of a certain generation really, really, really enjoyed this movie. Kind of for that suspense slasher moment. Hell on Frisco Bay with Alan Ladd and Edward G. Robinson is as a kind of quasi noir of the 1950s. It's fine. I mean, Edward G. Robinson is getting on a little bit in age, but good music. Max Steiner does a great score, and I guess it scratches the itch is probably the best way I can do it. Frank Tuttle, who directed it, not one of my favorite directors. Battle Cry has had a real following for a long time. This is a terrific Raoul Walsh war film. Really, really great. This is sort of the original mishmash of guys in a platoon movie, where the platoon is meant to be sort of a metaphor for life, for the American melting pot and all that. This is kind of where a lot of that really begins. This is one of the first of those movies that seriously does it, from 1955. Adapted by Leon Uris from his own novel. It's in many respects a standard World War II movie, but it is, at the same time, it's something more. It's something bigger. And Raoul Walsh was one of those directors, a little bit like Samuel
Fuller.
Sam Fuller, who just, brought the testosterone and the anger and the psychosis and kind of fueled it. So he's maybe a notch below Fuller, but Raoul Walsh, very good. Battle Cry, terrific, also in the Warner Archive collection.
Animal Cry from 2000, Willem Dafoe, Ed Furlong movie, which I think is Steve Buscemi's directorial debut. People can check me on that, but I'm almost sure that it is. This was a very, very good movie, which I thought heralded something of a career, perhaps, for Steve, who was also already a very, very popular character actor by then, and of course still is. This was a good, strong movie. I had forgotten how many interesting characters were in this movie. You have Mickey Rourke playing a really interesting sort of transvestite, prison transvestite man called Jan. You got Seymour Castle in this movie. You got Tom Arnold in this movie. You got John Hurd in this movie. This was a very, very strong. It's about a young man who goes to prison. Ed Furlong's character, Ed Furlong, of course, who was in Terminator movies, and it gets taken under the wing of Willem Dafoe, who, of course, right now is running around the Florida Project. Oddly, looks exactly the the same.
He's not aged a day.
Yeah, ectomorphs are like that. Once you're there, that's just where you are. Anyway, this is a very, very strong film. Lots of great stuff in terms of special features on this. But most importantly, the high definition digital transfer, audio commentary by the novelist Eddie Bunker, who wrote that book. Danny Trejo was in this movie. It's just really strong movie, The Animal Factory.
And let me knock out a few more anime here real quickly. So Funimation has released a whole bunch of really, really interesting titles for the holidays. Put these on the list as well for your anime fans. Super Lovers Season 1. Again, this is domestic. This is and it always amazes me how so many of these characters look Caucasian. But anyway, this is interesting kind of domestic drama. Which could be in Japan, could be in North America, it could sort of be anywhere. So it's very accessible. Then we've got Blu-ray DVD combo pack of Alderamin On the Sky, which is it's pretty violent, but it's the imperial drama here. If you can kind of get through all the soap opera, the imperial drama, if you can kind of get through the Game of Thrones machinations and interplay between the characters, which involves all kinds of very specific laws and rules that govern this world. It's pretty engaging, so give that a look. The last bunch include the very, very bloody, very violent, but really well animated Drifters: Battle in a Brand New World War. These are the people who did Hellsing, and boy, is this it almost looks like it's painted. This is it's incredibly bloody and really brutal, but man, it's just really, really well animated. Some of the best looking anime you'll ever see. Skewing a little bit younger for the teen set, Cheer Boys, the complete series. It's more, school politics. Handa-kun, the complete series, which is also, it's kind of, it's a little bit in the same vein. First Love Monster, which skews probably a little bit younger. This is kind of like early teens, and it's a lot of, like 5th graders and 6th graders, and it's very strange. And then here are the two that are really, really dazzling. The Genocidal Organ, Blu-ray, DVD, and Ultraviolet combo. Ultraviolet, apparently Funimation is still with Ultraviolet, have not switched over to Movies Anywhere. I'm not getting any word on whether or not they will, but this is mind-blowing animation. Lots of work went into this. This is based on a novel by Project Ito. I don't even know what Project Ito is, but wow, it all takes place primarily in Europe. After there's not primarily in Europe, but it's a global terrorism plot, and it all kind of begins in Sarajevo. It's cyberpunky and just incredibly visionary and heavy metal-y, and it's cool. Genocidal Organ. And then a rare Funimation live action release, which is Ninja Hunter. I gotta be honest, ninjas chasing people around is something I never get tired of. It's why I like the Daredevil stuff on TV so much. Yeah. The Hand, man, the Hand, just chase people around with ninja. Did you see that Luke, our good friend Luke Thompson, Lafka colleague, sent a picture of him with Rosie?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, and I just
yes, I did with Rosie. With Rosie, I did see that. Yeah,
I told him, I said, get away from her. Anyone who's near that woman gets chased by ninjas. She's bad news, man.
Night Nurse.
So anyway, Ninja Hunter live action from Funimation, also a lot of fun. It's brutal, but yeah, it's worth checking out.
And look, Code of Silence, Chuck Norris's movie Code of Silence, right?
Yep.
1985. People forget that this movie was directed by Andrew Davis,
who would go on to do The Fugitive.
The Fugitive. And just set in Chicago. This is set in Chicago. This is a cop movie. He's a good cop. There's a crooked cop. There's some bad guys that he wants to take down. The other good cops want to stop him. It's good stuff. Back when Chuck Norris was still doing these sort of big movies, and Andrew Davis knew how to make these movies. So this is a real serious film. There is an audio commentary from Andrew Davis on this film too, as well as from screenwriter Michael Butler and the film's composer composer David Michael Frank. This is a really, really neat movie. Look, I love all those Chuck Norris jokes, but the thing about those Chuck Norris jokes, they all feel true.
They do.
Yeah, I know they're crazy, but I swear every time I hear one, I have to think about it for a second. Yeah, that kind of feels true to me. The Burning Bid, Farrah Fawcett. This is the movie that made Farrah Fawcett into a legitimate actress. It was a television movie. And about a woman who was being abused.
It's kind of timely, right?
Everything seems to be. But Farrah Fawcett, who of course had been a wonderful model and had been on Charlie's Angels. I think she only did a season on Charlie's Angels, if I'm not. And she made a movie with, what was it, Saturn 7 or something like that, maybe, or
Saturn 5.
Saturn 5, big old gigantic sci-fi movie.
Saturn 3,
but it was whatever it was. But it was this movie, The Burning Bid, that made her a serious actress and stood her well for a long time. Very powerful stuff. Interview with director Robert Greenwald in this movie. That's another one. This movie was directed by Robert good directors. You know what I mean? They're a thing. We kind of good directors is a hell of a thing, man.
You know what else Robert Greenwald directed?
What?
Xanadu.
Indeed.
Right.
You even got on that, yeah.
Our last batch of films are from Olive, and we love the people at Olive. They like Twilight Time. They mine a lot of great stuff that the studios otherwise would never release for some just godforsaken reason. Arthur Penn's amazing The Miracle Worker, which won an Academy Award. Fran Bancroft got an Academy Award nomination for a very young Patty Duke, and you know what? It's still an amazing movie. This is just such a landmark film. Of course, this is the story of Helen Keller and how she was taught, how she was sort of brought out of her deafness and blindness and able to engage with the real world by her teacher Annie. You know what? Honestly, Anne Bancroft she kills it in this part. She just absolutely kills it. It's unbelievable. And Annie Sullivan is the nice thing about this movie is that Annie Sullivan really got her due thanks to this movie in many respects.
People knew more about Annie Sullivan years later than they did about Helen Keller.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting sort of thing. People don't know a lot about Helen Keller either, for that matter. I encourage everyone to look up the later life Helen Keller, and what you will find is very, very interesting.
Yes, it is.
It's not what you think it is.
And then also from All of the Madness of King George, directed by Nicholas Heitner, which was a real sensation when it was released in 1994.
Really was, yeah.
Samuel Goldwyn Films had a real hit on their hands, all about the King of England during the American Revolution and how he was completely going out of his mind.
Literally
going out of his mind. It's a terrific story. It really is a great story. Very elegantly done. Written by Alan Bennett, based on his play, and Nicholas Heitner, who's basically a stage director, launched his film career with this movie. Yeah.
Rupert Everett. Funny. I think about all the young,
all the people who broke through with that movie.
That neat movie. A New Leaf. Man, this Elaine May film, which is so funny. Walter Matthau, Elaine May directed. It's about this ne'er-do-well playboy who goes through all of his money and gets told by his lawyer that he will not be able to. And he decides he wants to get married. Elaine May, playing the rich, who he was just completely disconnected from reality. And everything that he goes through in order to try to marry up with her, it is just the funniest thing.
It's Elaine May at her best. And I still think that Ishtar is awfully good, too.
People don't get Ishtar.
I know.
That is fantastic. Dustin Hoffman and Warren Beatty, just fantastic.
The Buzzards, it's just
stop.
Great.
Some of those songs I can still sing.
Yep.
So anyway, Elaine May and Walter Matthau, Elaine May directing that. Letter from an Unknown Woman, absolutely fantastic film. About 1948, 1947.
This was part of
Max Ophuls. 1948 is what it was.
Yeah, this is
from Olive.
It's wonderful. This is part of the Olive signature line. Joan Fontaine, Louis Jourdan. A lot of movies like Letter to Three Wives, Letter from an Unknown Woman. There are a lot of movies during the era that centered around letters. We can't do that now.
No.
Email from an unknown one. Nah, it doesn't work anywhere.
It's not the same thing at all.
and Ophuls was just such a wonderful, elegant director as well.
Thematically, though, very sophisticated stuff. Thematically,
I'll say this. Ophuls whether working in France or in Hollywood, the one thing that makes Ophuls really unique is that his camera work is as good as there will ever be in movies. You just don't see it anymore. People get kind of lazy now with steady cams and will, they don't really block their actors and they don't choreograph the camera to the blocking. Ophuls did. It's like a dance. It's like the actors and the camera are dancing. And it's so elegant and it's so fluid. And you don't notice it unless you pay attention to it. And if you pay attention to it, you will be awestruck.
And the actors as eloquent as his camera work in those movies. Operation Petticoat. What are you going to say? Blake Edwards.
Yeah.
Cary Grant, Tony Curtis, John O'Brien. This is just wonderful.
It's a lot of fun.
Just absolutely wonderful. Also from Olive, correct?
Yes, indeed, from the Olive signature line. Lots of extras on here, including an Adrian Martin audio commentary. And tons of featurettes. It's archival footage of the actual submarine that doubled for them in the movie. It's a lot of fun. This is just fun, pure fun, and
they do not make
Dick
them
Sargent. Come on,
like that anymore.
Yeah.
Don't. All right, baby.
All right, with that, we are done, and have a very Merry Christmas. Undecided as to when we exactly come back. We'll wait and see how everybody's holiday schedules do. We'll probably do one more show before the end of the year, and then we will see you in 2018. We are now, by the way, should have made mention last week. Last week was our 100th DigiGod podcast since leaving IGN. So we are now at 101. We're off onto a whole uncharted territory, triple digits.
It's a good number.
All right, everybody. Have a great week. Have a wonderful Christmas.